Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in to the PHNX Coyotes Podcast. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. I'm Leah here with Craig. Petey is not making another appearance until his beard grows back because none of us knew what to do with beardless Petey last night. But
I'll say this, it was better than the stash look.
I thought the stash was hilarious. I loved it. Sean's also behind the Mac today. And Craig, it's been a long time since we just sat and looked at the rest of the NHL.
Yeah, we haven't done Around the NHL in a long time. By the way, do you do Taco Tuesday? Do you do Taco Tuesday?
Only sometimes.
No, I'm the only one.
Yeah.
Our household.
Do you do
is
it
like,
every week?
I
actually do have a
Tuesday.
Taco Bell gift card, and I think I'm probably going to get Taco Bell for dinner. So,
Love it.
Love it. Little Taco Tuesday.
We are making homemade soft tacos tonight.
Ooh.
Multiple varieties. You can imagine you guys have.
Thank you for the
Now
invitation.
try
Yeah, I was going to say
Cuisine.
TFTI.
Craig, thank you for the invitation.
By the way, while all of this will happen, my youngest will just eat a bean and cheese burrito. And that's every Taco Tuesday. Like, what?
Boo.
Anyway.
All right. Well, now that we know your dinner plans,
Yep.
let's talk about what's going on around the NHL.
I don't even know what to do.
Neither do
How do you
I.
dance to carousel music?
I love it. All right.
Maybe just do this.
Normally we do Around the NHL. We used to do it on our audio shows. So now we're trying to make it more fun for the live
When you
shows.
rode the carousel, did you get the one that would go up and down? Because some of them were stationary, and you're like, why
I wasn't
would you have
prepared
a
for bubble
stationary
song.
animal on a carousel?
I don't know, for little kids maybe. I wasn't prepared for the circle here, but I'm going to just rock with it. I don't know where that came from.
This somehow really fits though.
I've been on a carousel in like a decade minimum, and I really want to go on with you.
Oh, man. All right. Wow. The music's still going somehow. All right. Well, let's talk about the playoff race. I know we've been kind of keeping our eye in our post-game shows, but I'm just glad to have an opportunity to really look at what's going on because while the Arizona Coyotes have officially been eliminated from the playoffs despite their late push to try and make the playoffs, supposedly, there are some implications for the Coyotes. The main one being where the Ottawa Senators fall in the standings. And as you've seen on our postgame shows when we run our tankathons, they've been holding steady at number 12 in the lottery.
Big win last night.
They had a big win last night, but it's a tough road ahead. Bill Armstrong, when he came on the show, said that they calculated their strength of schedule in making the risk to send Jakob Chychrun there. And now, unfortunately, for the Ottawa Senators, they'll be without Jakob Chychrun for 2 weeks with a hamstring injury. So bad for Ottawa, maybe good for Arizona. And I just have to say, like, when this trade went down and everyone was like, Team Ottawa won the trade. And there was also, we had to also
Trade
say,
grades.
yeah, like, Jakob Chychrun is an injury-prone player, and that was a risk that Ottawa had to take, and now we're seeing it already.
Has he played a full season?
I don't think so, has he?
He's had a lot of injuries. That factored into the return. His, as Bill said on our show, the season before last factored into his return, people wondering about him. And then I get tired of saying this. We knew he wanted 2 firsts and a second. I wrote that like when this whole thing started, but then some people started blowing it up into more because that's what happens in negotiations. Oh, you're offering me this? Well, let me see if I can get even more. That's what happens in negotiations. The bottom line for Bill Armstrong, want 2 firsts and a second or the equivalent of that in prospects. He was open to that. The reason he took 1 first and 2 seconds is because this first could be very high. As you said right now, it's number 12. It could go as high as number 9. We don't know what's going to happen with the Ottawa Senators, but I'm going to ruin our next segment by saying the Ottawa Senators are not making the playoffs. If you look at the remaining schedule, take a look at Pittsburgh's remaining schedule. We'll go there in a minute. There's no way Ottawa's making the playoffs. So the Coyotes are getting a very high pick instead of 2 first-round picks in the late 20s. And if you do a deep dive on what kind of players you get late in the first round versus, top 10, top 12 picks, there's a big difference. So you go for the marquee player. You try and get the best player possible. It makes perfect sense. I don't know why certain publications that I used to write for gave the Coyotes a D, but they didn't do a lot of reporting before they did that trade grade. That's all I'll say.
Steven said Chychrun averages 56 games a season. So it's a bummer for Chychrun and a bummer for the Senators. So we're, obviously we wish Jakob Chychrun well and hope that he heals up soon. But as far as it goes for the Ottawa's playoff push. Anything that's going to make it harder for them to make the playoffs, I'm good with. And I think we should stick in the East and look at that wild card race, because the Eastern Conference has been like, I don't even know.
Gauntlet.
Like, yeah, freaking
what
gauntlet.
Did Jeff Merrick called the Eastern Octagon?
Yeah, the Eastern Octagon. It's just a bloodbath in the wild card race right now. So Boston and Toronto, they've already clinched. Tampa Bay is right there. And then it's the Islanders, the Penguins, the Panthers. The Sabres are still fighting tooth and nail. They're neck and neck with Ottawa right now as far as numbers. And I guess you can throw the Capitals in that mix. Never say never. But we're coming up on the final 8 games of the season for these teams. It's a bloodbath in the East.
Yeah. Look at the Islanders are at 85 points, okay? So, I mean, Florida's 6 points back, and that's significant. The other teams are 8 points back of the Islanders at this point with like 8 games to go, or 7 or 9. That's just not going to happen. If you do the math, that's just not going to happen. Pittsburgh is the team I guess you have to be gunning for, but look at Pittsburgh's remaining schedule. Let me give you, Buffalo does have a head-to-head with Pittsburgh, but I think they do. No, they don't, actually. Pittsburgh has 3 playoff teams left on their schedule: Boston, New Jersey, and Minnesota. They also get Columbus, Chicago, Philadelphia, Detroit, and Nashville. You think the Penguins are missing the playoffs? Not happening.
But what about Florida coming for them?
Florida's the only team that I think has a chance, but Florida has lost 4 straight games. Doesn't really look like they're pushing for a playoff spot.
What's their remaining schedule?
So Florida has 2 playoff teams, Carolina and Toronto, and then they play Columbus, Montreal, the Caps, Ottawa, and Buffalo. So a lot of games against teams that they're competing against to try and get into the race. But they don't. The other thing that happens here, like, you don't play the Penguins, you don't play the Islanders, so you don't have those 4-point swing games that could really help you. So I think the road's too tough. I think the playoff field is set in the East already.
Interesting. And Pittsburgh does have a game in hand on Florida, which is to their advantage as well. But Pittsburgh really doesn't have a lot of room for error. They won their last game, but they're 4-5-1 in their last 10, which isn't quite good enough. Like, they've had so many goaltending woes, but I'm never going to count. Just like I can never bet against the Tampa Bay Lightning, like I can't ever count out Sidney Crosby.
Right, that's the other side of this. Like, how do you bet against him when the chips are down? And then you look at the schedule and just think, Penguins aren't missing the playoffs. My old buddy Luke Lipinski is still fretting that they're going to miss the playoffs. Told me Florida's going to get in, but he does this every year. He's like,
well, you know that
he's a pessimist.
You know that I am a Penguins fan as well.
Well, I mean, you know, it seems like you choose your team, depending on. No, I'm kidding. Maple Leaf fan, Penguin fan.
No, I never even came out and said I was a Maple Leaf fan. Anywho.
No? Do we have record of that?
I do up here.
I mean, I never, like, the Penguins, that was like my love growing up.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
But you have photos with like every star player over the last 30 years of the NHL.
That's thanks to my
Leah
dad.
Is the Forrest Gump of NHL media.
That's thanks to my dad for having a really cool job. All right, should we move to the West?
Sure.
Then?
Yeah, and just with Chychrun, it's a shame, right? It's a shame that he's not going to be there. Obviously, Ottawa acquired him not just for this playoff push, because they're going to have him for a couple more seasons beyond this, but they were hot at the time, and they had hoped they might make a push here and get in this season. They wanted to at least play meaningful games. Ottawa hasn't played that well down the stretch. I don't mean to bash the Ottawa Senators. I think there's a lot of potential here for what they could do in years to come. But this is a mediocre team right now. This is not a playoff team. They're a mediocre team by all the metrics if you look at them.
I do think the future is bright for them, though. Like, I would be excited if I was an Ottawa Senators fan, especially, and yes, Jakob Chychrun's injured right now, but he has term, and that was part of the appeal for a team in acquiring him, term on a pretty, team-friendly contract. And Ottawa, right now they're going through a sale. There's a lot that can happen depending on who buys the team. They might end up moving to downtown. Like, there's a lot of uncertainties for that organization right now, but not in a negative way. And I think it's going to be an exciting time to be an Ottawa Senators fan. So I don't want to disparage Ottawa. I do want to disparage Ottawa for the next 2 weeks, though.
Yeah, and it's good that they're moving downtown or trying to move downtown because
it depends on the ownership group, though.
Yes, it does. And Canada was a mistake. Like, everybody knows about Glendale, But the 3 worst NHL locations were Glendale, Canada, and Florida playing in Sunrise, which is so far from Miami. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. And when you're a small market team or a non-traditional market team, it's an even worse move for you to do something like that. You got to stay close to your fan base.
Absolutely. Well, let's check in on the West, which has been very different than the East in a lot of ways, but this playoff race is heating up in the West. No teams have clinched yet, but you got, I don't know, it's this wild card race is interesting as well. You got Seattle and Winnipeg right now in spots 1 and 2. Calgary, tough season for them, but they're still in range if they can win out and maybe Winnipeg falters. They're right neck and neck, and don't count Nashville out. But it's really only that. Like Vancouver and St. Louis, I think we can completely write off in the West. Pretty much the West is set in the sense that we minus the Calgary, Winnipeg, Seattle race. Now it's just a matter of how it actually falls and what the matchups are going to be. We've seen Dallas was leading the Central Division for a while. They've kind of dropped down, not enough to lose their playoff standing, but the West has been interesting in a different way because it's been a smaller group of teams, but the way they've been rising and falling has been interesting.
Yeah, first off, I have no faith in the Minnesota Wild to do anything. So regardless of what they do in the regular season, I have no faith in them in the playoffs. But as far as the wild card race, I can't figure out Nashville. They're a weird team. They have 10 games left, so they have the runway to do this if they get on a run, but they haven't been able to get on a run all year. They honestly haven't been that good a team. They're clearly going into rebuild mode with all the moves that they made in the front office. So it would be crazy if they got in. I still don't think they will, but they do have some runway. The interesting thing about Calgary is they have the easiest schedule remaining in the NHL. They're 4 points behind Winnipeg. They each have 8 games left, but they have the easiest schedule. They play one playoff team, the red-hot LA Kings, and then they get the Sharks, the Blackhawks, the Ducks, the Canucks, the Predators. That's a huge game, and Winnipeg.
Wow.
So they still have an opportunity here, and for Calgary in particular, this team needs to make the playoffs or we've talked about this a lot, and I don't want to see it as Brad Treliving's a friend. I mean, he was here for a long time. I really respect him, but if Calgary doesn't make the playoffs, I really get the sense that they're going to make a change at the GM spot. I don't know what's going to happen with Sutter, who's under contract and a good friend of the owner, but I hope the owner can take a hard look at that too if they miss the playoffs, because the coach's relationship to the players is part of the problem there.
Yeah, I'm just very fascinated by the West. I don't even think I was paying much attention to even realize that Minnesota took over the Central Division. They're 7-1-2 in their last 10, but also the Colorado Avalanche, and this is what we expected all season long. You know, they struggled kind of out of the gate, lots of injury issues, and they're 9-1 in their last 10. So they could very well end up winning the Central Division. It's just crazy to see how that shakes out. I think Seattle, and barring anything dramatic happening, is going to get that first wild card spot, first or second.
Great story.
But really, it's between Winnipeg, Calgary, and Nashville for me. And what the advantage Nashville has is they have 2 games in hand. So don't even count Nashville out, which is just crazy because I didn't even think Nashville would make the playoffs this year. It's a very interesting race, and luckily none of the West race really affects the Coyotes too much, but it is just really interesting to see.
Yeah. Nashville's getting great goaltending from UC Saros, so that's their hope, I guess. I don't think that's a very good team, but then again, the Western Conference is nowhere near as strong as the East.
Yeah.
So
if you had to pick Winnipeg, Calgary, or Nashville, who's getting the other wild card spot?
I mean, the easy pick is Winnipeg because they've got a 4-point lead, and it's hard to overcome leads, but Calgary has a real shot here. They need to get hot, and I don't know if they're capable of getting hot, but if they have the opportunity, they have the right matchups, they have an easy schedule, and there's a whole lot of pressure on that franchise to get in. So, I don't know, it's between those two. I don't think Nashville's making it, but
all right.
I mean, if I had to pick odds, I'd pick Winnipeg at this point simply because they have a 4-point lead. But they haven't played that well themselves. They haven't been a great team down the stretch. Remember when we were talking a while back about how this team was in first place and what an unbelievable job Rick Bowness was doing, and maybe Jack Adams' consideration? Well, that's gone now.
Yep. I'm going to pick Winnipeg just to be different. And also because I think that 4-point lead is substantial, but we'll see what happens. At this point, nothing would surprise me. And we'll just continue to keep track. And if you're feeling any type of way and you want to bet one way or another on who's going to make the playoffs, you can do so on BetMGM, our new partner.
That's right.
We're so excited to be partnered with BetMGM. And I was looking on there last night because I downloaded the app and I wanted to wait to use our bonus code PHNX to sign up, which I did. They have some really fun stuff on there, like will an original 6 team win the Stanley Cup? Yes or no? Like that's something you can bet, which is cool because that, covers Boston and the Rangers if you wanted.
In Toronto.
Oh yeah, I didn't even I just counted them out mentally. But download BetMGM if you haven't already, and when you sign up, use bonus code PHNX and you'll get up to a $1,000 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. So here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app, sign up with the bonus code PHNX, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code PHNX when you sign up.
There it is.
And to kick off this partnership, we're doing a massive watch party this Saturday at 2 p.m. at the BetMGM Sportsbook at State Farm Stadium. If you have never been to this sportsbook, it is a beautiful,
sweet. Yeah,
beautiful, state-of-the-art sportsbook. Giant screens everywhere, kiosks you can place bets, a bar, like tables.
Right on the Great Lawn.
Yeah, literally on the Great Lawn.
Yeah.
You look out the window, there's State Farm Stadium. It's a really cool venue.
Somebody might even have a set there. I don't know. PHNX Coyotes.
But I'm really excited for this Saturday. Come hang out with us. We're going to watch the last stages of college basketball play out with food and beverage specials, giveaways, and massive TVs to watch the game. Plus, if you register and place your first bet with promo code PHNX when you sign up, you'll receive a PHNX shirt. So, great deal. Hope to see you all this Saturday, April 1st at 2. And now, listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
Woo! I will never get over that
The
disclaimer.
Dylan Strome read. I love that.
Oh, man. Well, Glendale, it's a drive you're used to, Craig.
Yes, it is. But this is for a good reason.
It is for a good reason. And lucky for us, there's a lot of Circle K's in the valley to stop and get gas, to get snacks for the drive. We love Circle K. We need a restock for the snack cart. Bad. Yes, Max. We need a restock on the snack cart is what I'm saying.
DP and I are pushing for baked goods. Can we get some baked goods?
Some mini powdered donuts.
We want some more kettle cooked salt and pepper chips.
Maybe
Jerky. Ooh,
wow.
I can get behind it.
More information after Friday.
Ooh,
right.
more information
Look
after
at that.
Friday, Max says. Okay. Well, if you want to try Circle K snacks or coffee, check them out. They also have great gas prices. So make sure you're not missing out on all this great stuff. Be stocked up all March Madness long. Head to circlek.com/store-locator to find Circle K's near you. We got an Ottawa Senators fan in the chat.
Oh, yeah?
You are finding ways to win even with him out. Ottawa Senators outlook, but
They are, actually. They've been pretty good without Jakob Chychrun, actually. Anyway.
just like the Coyotes were when he was out for trade-related reasons. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit more playoffs because we're talking about the format with the divisions and the wild cards. Craig, I miss 1 through 8 seeding.
I miss 1 through 8. And I'm just going to throw this addendum on here because I really want what the NBA does. I want the play-in round, too. I loved it during the bubble. A lot of people around the league love it. I don't know why Gary Bettman hates it so much. I know he says it diminishes the regular season. Nobody cares, Gary. And by the way, money. You can make more money.
Nobody cares, Gary.
You can make more money with the play-in round. It makes things even more interesting when you've got more teams in it late in the season. I just love it. I mean, do whatever you have to do. If you need to obviously you should shorten the play-in round. Maybe even shorten the first round, although you don't want, teams that have been sitting maybe get upset because there are not enough games. You got to think about all that stuff. But I love the play-in round. Short of that, Get rid of the divisional format. There are no rivalries left in the NHL. And let me be clear on why that is. It's you, NHL. You ruined it. You took them all away. You broke up the Blackhawks and the Red Wings, things like that. So don't tell me that you're doing this because of rivalries. There are no rivalries anymore. Rivalries are built in the playoffs. But what else happens in the playoffs is you want the best teams competing late. You don't want this ridiculous gauntlet that's existed for the last several years. Boston, Tampa, Toronto. It's crazy that two of those teams have to play each other in the first round every year. They've been elite teams for a while. 1 through 8 makes so much sense. Everybody sees it. It's just illogical to think otherwise.
Love it.
I just want to point out that the Buffalo Sabres would be playing the Florida Panthers in a play-in game.
Love it.
That's the standing stand right now, and I would be here for it.
I'm on board for a play-in.
Would you do one game or you do 2 of 3?
2 of 3, I think.
Yeah, I would too.
Chris said, "Why is Smooth Pete not on the pod today?" Like I said at the top, he will not show his face until his hair grows back. That's what happened. But yeah, I always loved 1 through 8, and what it gave us was that incredible LA Kings run in 2012. But besides the fact
not
that
winning fans over.
Besides the fact that it was the LA Kings, it was cool. Like
it was,
just all of that aside, it was very cool to see The NHL is one of the few leagues where you actually get to see some parity in the postseason. So let's talk about what the playoffs would look like today. Did you update this, by the way?
I did update it, yeah.
If the playoffs started today and we had 1 through 8 seeding, these would be the matchups. Why don't you read the East, Craig?
1 is Boston, of course. 8 is Pittsburgh. So we'd get a Sidney Crosby against the Boston Bruins juggernaut in the first round.
The black and yellow
yes,
series.
Exactly. Yeah, the black and yellow. There you go. Carolina is number 2 right now because they're the division winner. They play the Islanders. Yeah. Then we'd have the New Jersey Devils and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Wow, was that a tough first-round matchup for the Devils after this great season. And then, Leah, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the New York Rangers.
Wow.
We have a so-called, but mislabeled actually, original 6 matchup between the Maple Leafs and Rangers.
Why is that mislabeled?
Because there were other teams in the NHL that don't exist anymore before these 6 teams, like the Montreal Maroons.
Oh, like you're saying original 6 is missing.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
Be more like the surviving 6 or something.
This is what I like. This is what I like about 1 through 8 too, because like you said, we've known all season long that Tampa's playing Toronto. Boring, boo. Exactly. Like
again,
I'd rather watch New Jersey play Tampa. Like New Jersey, who made the playoffs for the first time in years, have to play the team that's made the Stanley Cup final 3 years in a row. I'd rather see Toronto play a team like the Rangers.
Arguably the 2 biggest markets in the NHL, right?
The biggest.
Wow, would this one pop?
2 of the biggest cities in North America. Like, just.
Toronto's hockey mecca, all right? And New York is New York. Can you imagine that first round matchup? The NHL would be all over that matchup. You never get to see it.
It's upsetting.
You never get to see it.
Well, moving to the West, this is what the matchups would be. We got Vegas at number 1 versus Winnipeg. Interesting matchup.
Tough travel series.
Yeah, the West just sucks for that. Yep. LA, Seattle. I kind of like that because it's kind of 2 teams making their. And I can't say that about LA because this core won them Stanley Cup, but it is cool to see what.
Sean, go ahead.
Well, I liked it. I mean, the first part is whatever, but then the puck will glow depending on how hard it is shot. Also, is just
laughing, love it. Then we got Minnesota, Dallas. That would be fun. The battle of the green teams.
Yeah, and Dallas would win because Minnesota.
And then Colorado, Edmonton.
That one. That's but look at the 4 or 5 matchups in both conferences. Toronto, New York, and then you get Colorado, the defending Cup champ, against Connor McDavid. I want to see these.
Give it to me. It's so much more fun.
Yes.
And there's so much movement that could still happen in that 1 through 8
like you
seeding.
mentioned, Colorado could win the division and just jump all the way up.
Yeah, like it's just crazy. And I'm just so upset that we are robbed of this. Let us know in the chat what you think about 1 through 8. Kenny said, I like 1 through 8, but not a play-in game. Nicholas said 1 through 8 seeding, play-in round 2 of 3 with all play-in games at the home of the higher seed.
Okay, well, I have to admit a mistake here because for some reason I didn't put Minnesota number 2, the division winner. So they would play Seattle and then LA would play Dallas.
Okay.
So, my bad. But then Colorado Edmonton is still in place right now, which
still.
Oh my God, that would be an unbelievable series.
Unreal. And yeah, Sterling said 138 so much better. Watching a number 8 seed beat number 1 in the first round is always exciting. It's so true, and it's possible. Like, that happens in the NHL.
LA did it.
Yeah.
They were an 8 seed when they won the cup in 2012. Ouch.
Yeah. It's just Gary, please.
Yeah, I don't
know. And even Sidney Crosby came out and said, I prefer 1 through 8.
You talk to players, coaches, they're all in favor of it. Just make this happen. There should not be any resistance to this. It's a better format. Nobody cares about divisions anymore. It doesn't matter. Yep.
Well, while we're talking about number 1 seeds, we already know Boston. They won. They won the conference or the division or both. Like, they're good. They're on a freaking tear, and we've kind of talked about Boston a little bit, but we should talk about them a little bit more. Here's the question, Craig. Can the Boston Bruins eclipse Montreal's 132-point season?
Which was done in 80 games, by the way. Whatever.
And if so, should they even care or think about that?
It's the latter one is the one that fascinates me more, because right now Boston's on pace. We'll see. All it takes is a slip up, right?
They have 119 points right now with 9 games to go.
I think they were, last I checked, they were on pace for like 133 or 134. So it's close, right? The question is, do you go all out? I mean, if you're winning while resting players, which I feel like you should do, not necessarily give them games off, although you might even want to do that once or twice, but limit the minutes, things like that. If you're still winning, so be it. But they need to make sure that they're healthy. The NHL playoffs, more than any others, well, maybe football, but there's so many games, right? It's a war of attrition. You will lose players to injuries. You can count on losing players to injuries. Make sure your guys are as healthy as possible going into the playoffs. Boston has to win the cup. They have to win the cup. If they do not win the cup, this will be considered a choke job. In spite of the fact that the East is so tough, it's one of the best playoff fields that I have seen in a long time in the NHL. In spite of that, with what they're doing, they have to win the cup. Otherwise, people are going to say they choked.
Yep. And honestly, the regular season means nothing almost.
Not in the NHL playoffs, yeah.
Because that year that the Tampa Bay Lightning had a record-breaking regular season, they choked in the first round to the Columbus Blue Jackets. You look at taking it outside the NHL, you look at the Phoenix Suns season last season. They had a record-breaking regular season, and then they lost in the second round. The regular season, to me, doesn't matter. If they break the record, I think it's amazing. I think their focus these last 9 is to win games. They're not going in the, like, Montgomery is not standing in front of the room saying, it's okay if we lose this one. Like, they're still trying to win.
Right, because you want the mindset going into the playoffs. You still want to be mentally prepared.
But they can't risk to go all out and play Bergeron and Marchand like their full minutes, and when they've already secured, like, they already know their place. They've already secured a playoff spot. They've already secured the President's Trophy pretty much. They can't afford to think like that. But if they think with the mindset, we want to win our last 9 games, as they should, then they can do it.
Yeah. At least Brad Marchand is not focusing any of his energies on Twitter anymore.
Who's going to tell you to shut your pie hole, Craig?
I mean, look who won in the end. Just saying.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It is unbelievable what Boston's doing, and I agree. And it's crazy. I'm actually afraid, and we'll have to pull these out when the season ends to pull out our preseason records, because I think Boston was like a team I had on the bubble, like,
that's what their beat writers were telling me. I remember being in Boston, and their beat writers were like, yeah, I think they're still a playoff team, but maybe 7 or 8. No, instead they're going to break the record for most points in a season.
It's unbelievable what they're doing. So we'll see. They have to kind of step up in the playoffs, and it would be cool to see that team go on like one final.
Yeah.
Push.
I'm a huge Patrice Bergeron fan anyway, and it's with how consistent they have been for so long. They won the cup in 2011. That's a long time ago. With how consistent they've been, to me, like, getting that second cup for this group, well, it's not much of that group left, actually. It's really Patrice and Brad Marchand, right? If they get a second cup, it almost validates this whole run with those players, with those key players. It validates Patrice Bergeron for me, who I know a lot of people appreciate what he does, but he's such an unconventional number 1 center, because he's maybe the best defensive center that's ever played the game. So he doesn't put up the gaudy point totals. He still puts up good point totals, but he is such a suffocating presence defensively. It would be really cool to see him get one more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I found our predictions from?
No, I don't want to know.
Terrible.
Save it.
Okay.
Save it. But I'm
Save
glad.
it for the start of
Put
the
them in a
playoffs so we
folder,
can be embarrassed.
and we'll save them for after the season.
I already remember my Western Conference final prediction, so that's not looking so great. One of the teams I picked is not even in the playoffs
Wasn't it?
It was the Calgary Flames.
Ooh, I think you also were like beating the Vancouver Canucks drum too, or maybe that was Petey. One of you was.
That might have been Petey.
Yeah.
I have not been on the Vancouver Canucks train.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Taylor Hall could win a Stanley Cup this year. That's crazy to think about.
Their depth is ridiculous.
Yeah, their depth is insane. And also, like, when I look at Boston as a whole, as an organization, and forget about their history, their money, their value, all of that, but they're kind of like that franchise that they win. They won the Stanley Cup. They made the Stanley Cup Finals. They're having a record-setting regular season. Like, this is what I hope. That was a PD sigh for all of you out there. The Coyotes can maybe one day be that level of winning, that level of I don't know, like every season at the start of the season, it's like, yeah, they're making the playoffs.
They have, I just looked this up. They have, and I'm not even counting Vegas. Vegas hasn't been around long enough to talk about highest winning percentages. Boston's winning percentage is the second highest in NHL history, behind the Montreal Canadiens, who are still living off their past, much more so than their present.
Well, luckily the Coyotes have their future. And we'll have to see what happens on May 8th with the draft lottery. But we do know that the Arizona Cardinals have the third pick for now, unless they trade it, which is what Bo and Johnny have been saying for weeks now, in the NFL draft. And if you want a great place to watch the NFL draft, may I recommend the Four Peaks 8th Street Pub, which is where we will be on Wednesday, tomorrow.
Nice. Yes, and
for last Wednesday.
Petey's coming that day?
He is planning to. He's already paid his bet, Craig. You and I.
Wait, he already? Oh, no,
he
but
shaved
he
his
didn't.
beard.
He didn't pay a different bet that he's going to be.
Oh,
paying
he has
tomorrow.
to buy me a beer because the Toronto 6 won.
Wait, I thought it was your tab that included.
He did
food.
say tab. I think I'm going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I was going to ask like how much latitude you have.
Maybe
with that
I'll
tab. Like if other people happen to buy something on your tab.
I'll say, lunch is on me today.
PHNX Coyotes, right?
Yeah.
I feel like.
Because Sean was talking about you guys doing your little date thing where you split the chicken tenders and the French dip that you did last time.
It's pretty solid, right? You want to do that again? All right. So thanks,
yeah.
Petey, for lunch tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks in advance, Petey. But yeah, we're excited to be there. Our show's at 3 p.m. tomorrow, so if you want to come by, we'll be there in the afternoon at Four Peaks. All of our shows are live back-to-back all day long. So stop by. You can bring your laptop. If you're working remote, why not work at Four Peaks? Enjoy some brews. You must be 21 or older to enjoy responsibly. PD, listen, these turnarounds from like we left here at 11 p.m. last night and it's 11:30 right now and we're back doing another show. Like that's tough. And sometimes it's hard for me to go to sleep after that. Like I'm just so like amped from the show kind of. That's why OG's Sleep Edition gummies, that's why I love them. And I think Baby Petey took one or too many and we haven't heard from him today. Just kidding. We have. He's fine. But we love OGs. They're delicious. They have anything for any needs. Microdose, Sleep Edition, THC, CBD 2-to-1 ratio, indica, sativa, anything you can possibly think of, they have it for you. And they're scratch made, they're local, and unreal. So you can find them at your local dispensary by checking out ogsbrands.com. You must be 21 years or older to enjoy. All right, Craig, let's talk
Topic
some more. Yeah, some more big and 4 of how many? Stay tuned to find out. Just kidding. Let's talk some more impact of playoff implication, impact, whatever that may be. And let's talk about the Carolina Hurricanes and Andrei Svechnikov.
That's a tough loss.
They've had a horrible injury luck this season with Max Pacioretty and now Svechnikov. This takes them out of being a cup contender.
Me too. And it's sad. They were having a hell of a run, but when you take an impact player, like first of all, you need depth in the NHL anyway, in the playoffs in particular. But when you take such an impact player, a goal scorer, a game changer like Andrei Svechnikov out of the lineup, I just don't see it. I love the Carolina Hurricanes. I love everything about that franchise, what they do, social media, etc. But once again, it feels like they're going to come up short.
Yeah. I'm not saying, I think that they could win one playoff round.
Sure.
I just don't think that they can compete for the Stanley Cup. And if it came down to Boston and Carolina, like in the conference final, they're not beating Boston. They're not beating a number of teams.
Right now they get the Islanders. So, I mean, that's a matchup they can win.
Yeah. But after that, I don't know. And it's just really unfortunate because, yeah, like you said, what they've been doing, and they've been strong, the last couple seasons. And I think a lot of people were surprised they didn't make any flashier move at the trade deadline. And again, these injuries are super unfortunate. Shane Gostisbehere is a member of the Carolina Hurricanes. Now we like to see former Coyotes succeed. So it'd be great to see them do it. I love when smaller market teams succeed. I just think this takes them out of it, and it's really unfortunate.
Not only small market, you like to see, does Carolina have what you would consider a franchise center? I don't know that they quite do. They have a lot of depth.
You can't even name a superstar, though.
I can name a lot of their players, but they don't have a Sidney Crosby or a Connor McDavid or, the guys that we're used to seeing hoisting the cup. You want to believe that teams like that can win, especially, if you don't get a top 3 pick in the draft and you just have to do it with depth, really good depth at center. You want to believe those teams can win, but it just doesn't happen too often, and I don't think it's happening without Andrei Svechnikov.
Yeah, and the other issue that Carolina has, when they have good goaltending, they have good goaltending, but they struggle to keep their goalies healthy. Frederik Andersen, Antti Ranta, another former Coyote who we all know. Yeah, boy howdy. Goaltending is very interesting, and we've seen this kind of new wave of NHL goaltending in the sense that it's not really a starter backup situation. It's more 1A, 1B, but in the playoffs, it's so interesting how you make those goalie decisions. If you ride the wave of who's hot, if you go with your 1A guy, it's just a crazy thing. And I'm so glad I'm not in the coaches room having to make that decision. But the reason I brought up goaltending is because the NHL right now NHL players are scoring more goals than ever. 3.19 is the average team's goals per game. The highest since 1993-94. Before I was born, Craig, just for the record. And goaltending in the month of March is not a great month for goalies. And even last night, we sat here on the postgame show or before and looked up all the NHL scores, and it was all 5-1, 5-2, 4-3. It was they've all been high scoring games. So the question is, does this imply maybe that this is going to be a very high scoring playoffs, or will goalies like Andrei Vasilevsky, Ilya, who am I thinking of?
Sorokin?
No.
For which team?
I don't know. No.
Give me a hint.
Igor Shesterkin.
Oh,
that's
Igor
who
Shesterkin. Okay.
I said Ilya and then I got thrown off. Will they just kind of bear down and put on their best performance like most players do in the playoffs where it's now playoff mode and they step up? Is that going to happen with those elite goalies, or are we just going to continue to see this pattern into the playoffs?
I'm curious because, I mean, these trends are there for a reason. The game is changing again. The game has gotten faster. They've opened it up a little bit. Skill is being emphasized more. So you could argue that it's going to be, and they shrank the goaltending equipment, all these sorts of changes to increase scoring. But the playoffs tend to get more direct, right? More defensive focused. So I'm curious to see how it's going to play out. Travis Yost wrote a story for TSN looking at how goaltending is just cratered in March. The numbers have really dropped. And I don't know what to tie that to. I don't know if it's just an anomaly, but it's kind of disturbing for teams. Right when you're heading into the playoffs, suddenly goaltending has not been very good. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing these wild, high-scoring games. I think they're fun. I know people like to see some defense. Coaches will have heart attacks if they have to watch 10-8 games. But I was alive in the 80s, guys, when the Edmonton Oilers were rolling. And I watched a Blackhawk Oilers series in the playoffs where the goals just came like rain. It was insane to watch that series, just back and forth, back and forth. I don't think we're quite at that level because coaching and goaltending and structure are much better than they were in the 80s. But I like this. I like having, I don't want to watch the dead era, the dead puck era again. I like watching some offense, and there's so much skill in the league now. I hope this carries over into the postseason.
It is interesting. I don't know if you heard Sheldon Keefe's comments this past week about Toronto, and he said, he was like, we just can't be forced to have to score 4 goals every night, and it's kind of an indictment of Matt Murray. And he literally said like he has to stop one or two of those. And
Isn't it funny that Toronto hasn't figured out yet that they need to solve their goaltending issue?
Well, they don't have money because they're paying all their top line players a lot. And then you look at Edmonton, and they have McDavid and Draisaitl, which those two have only like not scored 4 times this season together. But then you look at Jack Campbell and Stuart Skinner. Stuart Skinner's been the better goalie this season, but it's like, can you make a run with Stuart Skinner? It's really, really interesting. And the thing is, like, you need all your positions to be firing at all cylinders to make a run, in my opinion. Yeah. And that's why I go back to Boston, because they have it all. They have the goaltending, they have the defense, they have the offense. Yes, like Toronto has the high-flying scoring, but when it really comes down to a series, games can be the difference between 1 goal. And if, for example, Matt Murray isn't at his best, or he's not playing to the level of, an Andre Vasilevsky, that could be the difference in a 7-game series. Yeah,
no question. And Boston is, you're right. They're the most complete team in the NHL. I don't think anybody would argue with that. But when I look around the league to try and find other teams, I keep watching the Colorado Avalanche thinking, I know they're hot right now, just doesn't feel the same. And maybe they still get out of the West because the West is not very good, but that team is not as good as last year's team. I'm not going to entertain any other thoughts. I've watched them. I think they miss Nazem Kadri a lot. They miss Burakovsky a lot. They're just not the same team, and they could run into trouble if they hit a really good team. I don't know if that team exists in the West, but in the East, like, I thought Carolina was capable before the injuries. Like, when I look through the East now, I don't know if New Jersey's ready for a deep run in the playoffs. It would be a great story if they did it. I don't know if they're ready. And then I look like at a team like the Rangers now with the firepower they have. I wonder what the New York Rangers are capable of.
Yeah. It's just going to be so fun. This playoffs is going to be so fun. Yeah. But in the West, nothing will surprise me.
Legit. And I don't think like Winnipeg or Seattle will be in the Cup final. Aside from that, any other team? Yeah. Okay, I could see it.
And let's talk about LA for a
Minnesota,
second.
Sorry.
Yeah. You have no faith in them. Watch them completely prove you wrong. I'd love it. The LA Kings.
Oof.
They're hot right now too. They're 8-0-2 in their last 10 games. They've won 3 straight, and we saw them obviously acquire Korpisalo at the trade deadline. That was kind of securing, speaking of goaltending, kind of giving them that cushion in the back end. Don't count LA out, because as we talk about Boston and their core with Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand, LA still has the core of players who they want to couple with. Drew Doughty, Anze Kopitar, they're still there. Plus, they have this influx of young players. As Arizona Coyotes fans and Arizona sports fans, we hate to see LA teams succeed,
seriously.
But don't count LA out.
No, and I mean, being hot going into the playoffs isn't everything. I sort of look at it over a more of an extended period of time near the end of the season to see if a team has sustained it. But earlier in the year, I wasn't impressed with LA at all, and I was saying it on the show. They've really hit a run here. They look like they're clicking on all cylinders, and like we've said, in the West right now, that might be enough. They might get themselves all the way to the Cup final. I don't buy, however, this idea that the East is going to be such a gauntlet that the team that emerges will be too beat up. I think there's parity in the West too. I don't see the West, I don't see one team making a run and having an easy run through the West either. I think it's going to be very competitive in the West too. So I still think the Eastern Conference team wins the Cup.
Luke said Toronto has 12 NHL defensemen and 0 starting goalies. So true. And then laughing, said, don't forget Quick. Oh, right. Can you imagine LA and Vegas facing off in the playoffs?
Sure. Let's
give it to me. Yeah. Give me all the great storylines. That's all I care about. Listen, we're not watching the Arizona Coyotes in the playoffs quite yet. Maybe one day. But for now, we're focused more on the other end of the standings with the draft lottery race. Craig, what do you have coming up on gophnx.com?
A couple things, actually. I hate giving this stuff away, but
you don't have to.
I do.
You can just give really misleading hints. I don't know.
Misleading hints. Like Tempe First?
Oh, sure.
Mislead people?
Yeah.
No, I mean, clearly Clayton Keller is on one hell of a run. So I've got a deep dive coming on him, but I'm also taking a look back at, the guy whose record he's chasing, Keith Tkachuk, who set that record in the first season in the desert. I'm going to do a retrospective on that season as well. So
That's
both
awesome.
of those are coming up. And then, of course, we can look at things like I am going to be pounding the Matias Maccelli drum. Like right now, with the way things are in the National Hockey League, if Matias Maccelli is not top 3 in Calder voting, then we're going to have a problem.
We will.
We're going to have a problem. We're going to throw down.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about that tomorrow on Wednesday show, talking about the case for Calder, the case for Masterton, for Keller, just kind of why certain Arizona Coyotes players and maybe coaches should be considered for league awards. But if you want to read Craig's diehard only pieces, you can do so at gophnx.com/diehard. Become a diehard today. You get access to our Discord channel. You get access to 20% off events and merchandise. Check out the PHNXlocker.com and maybe check it out again tomorrow as well.
Might be something in there. You just might say, well, I might say, orange glad you checked it out.
Oh, shoot, Craig. Speaking of hints. So grab your membership today to receive that exclusive content and discounts. And you also get a free shirt or hat when you sign up. So if you're kind of waiting to become a diehard, tomorrow would be a great day.
You're welcome for the dad humor.
Love it. Speaking of our diehards, we did see a few of them the other day at Illegal Pete's on Sunday in between the Coyotes game and the PHF championship game. It was so much fun to do. And it was like, we just planned it on our own. Like it wasn't a PHNX sanctioned event. We just did it. Yeah. So thank you to those who came out. It was a lot of fun. And of course we got to enjoy Illegal Pete's, and there was queso. It was actually one of the better batches of queso, and I felt very validated when I got there and everyone said, you were right about the queso. I have yet to be wrong about the queso.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for a larger container after I started eating it.
Yeah, I was like,
there were too many chips. I was like, I need another one of these.
I know. I was like, should I sneak this in to Mullet?
Insane. But so are their bowls. Their bowls are really good.
The bowls are amazing. Yeah. And they have all sorts of great stuff and great drinks as well. They have amazing tequila, amazing margaritas. Try the prickly pear one. It's very good. So you can try out that and their premium or frozen margarita, and you can stop by for happy hour, which is 3 to 6 p.m. every single day. So great window of time also before a Coyotes game, 3 to 6, to stop by and enjoy happy hour. Then you can walk to the arena, because Craig did that the other day. He walked from the arena to Illegal Pete's, and it was a nice walk.
It was a beautiful day, so yeah.
So try out Illegal Pete's. Try
one of the many benefits of being in Tempe instead of Glendale.
What a concept.
Yeah.
Craig, anything else before we head out? Anything we didn't touch on, talk about?
We'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll be good.
Yeah. So we'll like I said, we'll be live tomorrow 3 p.m. to talk some NHL award stuff, and somebody needs to bring in pancake syrup. Who owns pancake syrup?
Oh, that's right.
Do you? I'm not buying it.
I mean, I own
Craig. PD probably has it.
I own Log Cabin because my kids eat Log Cabin instead of real syrup. They like corn syrup.
Yeah, bring it.
Bring the Log Cabin.
I have to do a shot.
It feels like an upgrade. I might have to get something.
No.
Log Cabin. Okay, I'll bring the Log Cabin.
Just bring it.
With a shot glass though.
You have a lot. I saw it in your at your St. Patty's Day party.
I think everyone's seen that we have a lot of shot glasses in my house.
But anyway, so I'll pay off my bet tomorrow, and Craig still has to. Were you gonna shotgun or do beer bong and IPA?
We'll see. We'll see what the implement looks like.
All right, we'll see. So that's all going down tomorrow. So stay tuned in. Subscribe to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so you never miss when we go live. Also, hit the like button on this video if you're watching us on YouTube. It helps us out immensely. And if you're listening on audio, leave us a review. It also helps us out immensely. But in the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter at Leah Merrill, at Craig S. Morgan. You can follow PD and compliment his lack of facial hair at S. Peters Hockey. You can follow Sean at Sean_DePaz. We're hopefully going to practice tomorrow. They haven't said that it's not happening yet.
They're having practice tomorrow, but Andre did say that they'll have another day off on Thursday. So
no way.
A rare Coyote. This may be the last practice of the year for all I know.
So more content to come from there as well. So follow us on Twitter at PHNX_Coyotes. But everybody, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.